Hello, everyone, and welcome to another book club episode. I'm joined again by my sister, Darren. Hi, Darren.
Hi.
And debut author, Emma C. Wells. Emma, thanks for being here again.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about this episode. I read a lot. I've always been a big reader since I was very young. We didn't have a lot going on, so I was always at the library. And as a kid who had ADHD before, like way before social media or anything like that. So I think like how a lot of kids maybe like disassociate through like scrolling now. For me, it was like books because that's what was available. And so my love of reading started really young and has continued. And like anything else, you have dry spells and then get pulled back in.
Do you usually read while you're writing? And if so, are you able to read in that same genre?
So I can read in the genre, but I don't read the same trope, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like I can read a thriller. It actually helps me stay on task with pacing. If I start reading, so like say I'm working on a thriller novel and it needs to be pretty tightly paced, but I'm reading a lot of like fantasy or like book club books, and the pacing's different. You have a little bit more room to grow your world and things like that. I will find myself kind of meandering a little bit in my writing, not in a bad way, but just it kind of comes out. So I will stay in my genre. I'm a mood reader, so I don't necessarily choose a thriller because I'm working on a thriller. But if there's a thriller I'm reading, I want to read, I will read it. I typically, so like when I was writing Cordelia, I don't think I would have picked up like, You'd Look Better as a Ghost, because it's a female serial killer book as well. Just because I wouldn't want to accidentally.
Yeah.
I do. Sense. And I'm usually reading a couple things at once. I usually have at least one audiobook going, and then I usually have something on my Kindle. And I need to read my physical TBR. But like honestly, most of the time that I have to read is at night when I'm laying in bed, and the Kindle's just like so convenient with the light, or I should say e-reader, like whatever, I'm using Kindle Paperwhite, but
I feel that though, because I have started doing that more because it's easier. I don't have to have a light on. Like it helps me go to sleep too.
You ever like hit yourself in the face with the Kindle? Like you're like laying there reading and just like pop and like, oh shit.
I bought one of those, like, not even like a pop socket, but like one of those stands to like put on it. And if the weight goes the wrong way, it'll just fall forward. Like it won't stay and then it falls on me.
I like lay in bed with mine and I'm like reading it, and the font's on like 1,000,000. So I'm like constantly tapping it because I don't know what it is. It's about when the room is dark. I like have the font huge and I'm just like bop, 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 bop. And I'll get sleepy and just smack myself with it. And like, okay, it's time to go to bed.
Now, do you finish every book you read?
No. And I don't think anybody should stick with something if it doesn't bring them joy, unless you're reading it for a specific reason. I have rage read some things though, like where I'm just really pissed off. I'm like, what the hell? But I don't finish everything. I do finish most things though, because I am a mood reader. So I've started books and then they haven't been the right book for that moment, and then like went back to them like, months later and finished them.
Oh, so you just put them on pause.
Yeah. There's a few that I'm like, okay, this isn't right for me. And it wasn't even that they were bad books. It was just like not what I was looking for at the moment. So I don't need a book to like take off right away. It doesn't have to like get right to the plot. It can be a slow book. It can be a slow burn. It can be. But if I'm in the mood for something specific and I pick up the book and I'm like trying to scratch a particular itch and I know pretty quickly like this isn't going to do it, then I won't stay with it for too long. I'll keep looking. But I also fall into that trap now because having an e-reader and then having like my phone for audiobooks and then having Libby, I just like keep looking for the best book to read right now. And I end up spending more time looking for a book than I do reading the book. And I'm like, girl, this is not the move. Just choose a book and read it.
Yeah. I'm on book 3 and we're 6 days into January. Like I'm on book 3 of like trying, not finished, like trying to pick. Like I've read like 20% of 3 different books and I have put 2 of them down. I think I'm going to continue with this next one. So I get it. Like, it just, I feel like I can't figure out what I want.
And like sometimes if I say if you're, I'm talking about myself, but like in general, the collective you, like I'm looking for something specific and I want it quickly. And if that book isn't it, I'll set it down. And then later when I'm in a different mindset and I don't care as much, I'll read, and then the book will end up being amazing, you know?
Yeah.
So I read, was it The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, I think?
People
I was
love
so
that.
mad at that book in the beginning, Peter Swanson. If you ever see this, I was like, what is he doing? Oh my God, this. But then like the twist, I was like, oh, I see what you're doing here. Okay. And I ended up loving that book, but it was intentional on his part, like what he was doing. But I didn't know. And like, I don't read a lot of male authors. That's terrible. I shouldn't say that. But this sounds bad, but in my genre and in horror, I prefer women authors typically, just not for any reason other than that's just what resonates with me. So I was like, here we go. And then there was like the twist and I was like, okay, no, this is good. I get what you're doing. So horror, they call it pink horror, which is like feminine horror with a slice of feminism or feminine led horror is really having a moment right now. And I'm here for it. Like I'm loving that. There's a lot of really good books out there. And I feel like thrillers forever was kind of a boys club. And now there's just like, I feel like women and like are kind of killing it, you know? And we still have some growth to do. Like definitely we need more diversity in the genre, 100%. But there are more women authors writing like kick-ass books than I think ever in the genre. So I'm here for it.
To add on to that, I would say this season that this episode will air, my 7th season, is pretty much, I've noticed as I'm looking down the list of my wonderful guests, a lot of these books, if not all of these books, are majority female authors, and they're all very badass women who are taking back their power, whether it's because they're a female serial killer or they're a survivor of something, and they're pretty exceptional women in these books. So it's a theme.
I think it's because when we look at like crime fiction, which is, you know, what I write, thrillers, we come at it from a different perspective than like, you know, the typical like white dude that wrote it. Not to say like they can't write kick-ass books. Like I'm not hating on anybody that writes a good book, but I'm just saying we bring a different perspective. And I think that's why it's important for public, like not only for readers to read diversely, like obviously, but for publishing to wake up and make room for different stories for people of, you know, different gender, different orientations, different races, like, because you can tell a story that's maybe a traditional trope, but you're going to bring a completely different mindset and lens to the table, and it's just going to be something brand new and interesting and fresh, you know. And so I hope that we get more of that.
And just speaking from myself, being able to read from authors like yourself, but also just generally thriller and horror writers from female perspectives has been incredibly inspiring. It's like that's kind of a realm that I, at least growing up, didn't even really consider, because it was always very similar people writing books that those were just names I've heard of. And then now looking into all these other authors of different backgrounds, it's very interesting and very inspiring for me to be able to see all of that.
I would say last year or 2023, I was really reading a lot of horror from like all over the place, and some of the most like wild, random, like, oh my God, what did I just read books were like actually books written by women that were translated into English. And I was like, oh my God. And like they stuck with me. Tender is the Flesh. I'm like looking at you. If you read the triggers before you read the book. And if
everybody.
You feel inclined to read the book. Anybody listening. You got to read it to the last page because it doesn't quit.
The
very last page makes the whole book. Like
it
I was
really
like,
does. And it's not that long, everybody, but
It's short.
Yeah, but don't be me and read it at Christmas time, 2023.
Girl, I read it over Thanksgiving in 2023. We were in a cabin in where were we at? Illinois, I think, with the fam.
Oh no.
With the family. And we were all there and everybody's reading and like we're getting ready to have Thanksgiving. And I'm like, oh, I don't know how hungry I am right now.
You're like, I don't want to carve the turkey, thank you.
No, I don't want to carve anything. Ugh.
Oh, yeah, no, you win. Oof. That was oof. No, thank you. Bella Mackie is an English author that I really enjoy her books. And one of them is How to Kill Your Family. And it's basically about and it has like a humorous aspect to it that I think is really funny. And it's basically this young woman, Grace, who her father abandoned her mother. And when he found out she was pregnant with her, and because he was already married and he comes from an affluent family. And so then her entire life is kind of, surrounding this experience and the fact that happened to her. And she decides to take revenge on her father and his entire family and kill them all because they knew and they did nothing to help her or find her, etc. And so you see all the ways she goes about trying to kill this entire family. And it was just so good. So good.
That has been on my radar for a minute and I want to read it. So I will bump it up because I love that idea. Isn't it like her dad is like this really like billionaire, like rich guy. Her mom was,
Yes.
I love the concept of this.
And Bella Mackie had another one that just came out and it's similar. She like has these rich people that she's dissecting and both her books are really good. I highly recommend. And then another one that I think you would like, I will say it's YA. And so just take that with a grain of salt in the way that it's written, but it's called The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis. And she writes very dark YA novels. And so our main character, Alix, is a teenager and years prior, her older sister was murdered and the killer walked free and lived in their town. And so Alix spent her entire childhood knowing that this man lives in this town and knowing the horrors of the world. And so she's kind of turned into more of a feral person. Like she's more secluded, she's very irritable, etc. And it's no spoiler, but she kills him. And then you know that from the beginning, but you're kind of watching her eventually, grow. And is she going to be more humanized and kind of go through these experiences as a teenager, having been, for lack of a better word, damaged by this experience? And I think it was a really interesting look at the way the females of the species are affected all the time.
That sounds very interesting. And I've heard that book title before, but I didn't know what it was about. So I'm definitely going to add. These are great recommendations.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the last like blow my mind book. What was the last blow your mind book that you read?
That is a great question.
I say This Girl's a Killer.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Right answer.
Honestly, yeah, let's just put it there.
That's
recently finished it, so it's still fresh in my mind.
Okay,
but
that's what I'm going to start doing on podcasts when I feel like I'm going to just be like, what's your favorite book about a serial killer? People on the spot.
Honestly, though.
No, that's a great way to end it, though. The last really great book. Okay. Emma and Darren, thank you so much for being here. This has been lovely. It's always, Darren and I were so excited about this because we feel very lucky to be able to talk to you about your book and then also to kind of get into your mind, having read the things you put on a page. So, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. This has truly been so much fun. Like I've had the best time. So thank y'all so much for inviting me.
Oh, I'm so
honestly
glad.
This was an honor being able to speak with you about all of this.